Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. The left's reaction to President Trump's bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities is one of the reasons why so many Americans have walked away from the Democrat Party. While Trump took decisive action to defend United States interests, the left's insanity just jumped into outrage mode, criticizing the move, second-guessing military strategy, even blaming the America First movement. So joining us now to discuss the craziness is the editor-in-chief for AMAC Newsline, Shane Harris. Shane, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, there is a fair amount of TDS to go around on the left, but this seemed to put it on steroids.
Yeah, that's right. So it's interesting. Over the weekend, obviously, I think everybody, left, right, all Americans were surprised by the raid on Iran's nuclear facilities, which, was the entire point of the plan to begin with. And so, people turn on the news to kind of get a sense for, what do I think about this? Which side do I fall on? Am I a fan of this? Not? And, on the one side, you see Republicans mostly united, a little bit of dissent, but mostly united that this was a great opportunistic move by the president. And importantly, it was an excellent job of execution by our military. And then on the left, on the other hand, you have people who are literally siding with Iran, waving Iranian flags in the streets. And so for the American people, for somebody who's trying to make up their mind about this, it's really not an easy decision. And for the Democrats, who are, engaging in, have a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome when it comes to this issue. And then they turn around and wonder why they're bleeding voters, why they have record low approval rating. It's honestly hysterical to watch just from a neutral observer perspective.
Yeah, it's stunning. It really is. The LA Sheriff's Department actually expressing condolences for those hit by the bombs. They were making nuclear weapons. Excuse me for a second. Illicit nuclear weapons. It's crazy. You can't make it up. Do you see on the horizon anyone who is going to take hold of the Democrats' messaging? They seem to be an utter mess. They want to talk impeachment on the day after a historic effort to reduce Iran's threat to the world. They're just out of touch on every aspect. Is there anyone that seems to have it together, or are the Democrats going to go into the 26th election a mumbled mess?
Yeah, no, not really. And really, this is a problem stemming all the way back to 2020 and especially 2024, is that Democrats have no bench. And during all of these crises, whether, not crises, but during all of these big events, right, whether it's the strike on the Iran nuclear facilities or, whatever's going on, there's nobody who can really drive the messaging for the Democrats. And if you ask me, this is the result of decades of DEI policies, of identity politics, where so many people in the party have been elevated because of their identity rather than their skills. And now that's really showing up in a big way for Democrats when it comes to leadership of the party.
Yeah, great point.
When you look at young voters who identify as Democrats, they typically vote Democrat, at least these days. Do you think that they grasp the notion that President Trump is the guy who said no new wars, who is trying to not enter the United States into another conflict, didn't it all during his first term, brought more troops home during his first term? And those are things that the Democrat Party used to espouse. And they claim, by the way, these young Democrats claim they do too, but they're not connecting the dots.
Right. Yeah. And, I think that, what we're seeing in the polling, what we're seeing in voting returns is that young voters are shifting rightward in a way that they haven't in a long time, maybe ever. And the response to this event over the weekend is, I think, a prime example of why that's happening. So I think young voters do understand that. But at the same time, they see, there's clips making the round on social media right now, two separate instances where there are liberal commentators on corporate media networks who are saying, oh, yeah, I've heard people in Iran chant death to America, but they don't really hate America. They don't really hate the United States. And that kind of cognitive dissonance, or that type of, where they're just lying to you and they're telling you, well, they'll literally go to the lengths of defending Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, if it means trying to get a shot in at Donald Trump. And I think that rings hollow to young people. It rings hollow to everybody. And again, that's why we're seeing record low approval ratings for the party.
Yeah, there's no doubt. All right, Shane, tomorrow I'm going to be lucky. Rebecca is going to be here. Rebecca Weber, the CEO of AMAC, going to be here. We're going to do a special report looking at what's happened with Iran, also looking what's happening with the big, beautiful bill. AMAC is everywhere right now. I see them everywhere working hard to get the BBB across the finish line. Tell us a little bit about why it's so important for AMAC members like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen an incredible outpouring of support from AMAC members. I was just on a call today. We put out a campaign urging our members to reach out to their senators to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which includes $4,000 in tax deductions for seniors. And in less than 24 hours, 13,000, more than
Wow.
13,000 AMAC members responded. So
It's a
that just
flood.
tells us that not only is the support for this bill broad, but it's incredibly enthusiastic. And so we'll continue to try to push that bill across the finish line over at AMAC.
I love it. I
Nicole?
love it. Shane Harris, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to our viewers, you can join AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, at amac.us/justnews. For as little as $12 a year, you're going to get their award-winning magazine, valuable discounts, and access to free resources. But importantly, you'll be a part of a movement committed to protecting the values. That's amac.us/justnews.